millions of drivers are pouring the wrong grade of oil into their engines right now, and most of them have no idea. The bottle looked right on the shelf. The dealer said 5W-30, and the engine is quietly wearing itself down every cold morning. Or worse, someone moved from a hot country to a cold one, kept using the same oil, and started burning through it in half the time. Today we fix that once and for all. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what the numbers on the bottle mean, why oil built for Dubai is different from oil built for Alaska, and which grade actually belongs in your engine based on where you live. No guessing, no marketing spin, just the real engineering and the real regional differences that the label on the jug never explains to you. Start with the number that confuses everyone. 5W-30, 2 numbers, 1 letter, and almost nobody reads it correctly. The W stands for winter, not weight. That first number describes how the oil behaves when it is cold. The second number describes how it behaves when the engine is hot, around 100 degrees Celsius. These 2 numbers are set by the Society of Automotive Engineers, or SAE, under a standard called SAE J300, and that standard is the rulebook the entire industry follows. Here is how the cold side works. The winter grade comes from 2 low temperature tests. One measures cranking, meaning how easily your starter can spin the engine over. The other measures pumpability, meaning whether the oil pump can actually move the oil once it fires. Per SAE J300, a 0W has to stay below 6,200 centipoise at minus 35 degrees Celsius on the cranking test. A 5W gets tested at minus 30, a 10W at minus 25, a 15W at minus 20, a 20W at minus 15, and a 25W at minus 10. Lower winter number, colder temperature, the oil survives. A 0W flows almost like water on a brutal winter morning. A 20W at minus 10 barely wants to move. The second number is different. That is measured by how thick the oil stays at 100 degrees Celsius, and there is a full ladder of grades: 8, 12, 16, 20, 30, 40, 50, and 60. A 30 lands in a kinematic viscosity window of roughly 9.3 to 12.5 at 100 degrees. A 40 sits higher, a 20 sits lower. There is also a deeper number that matters for protection, called high temperature high shear, or HTHS, viscosity, measured at 150 degrees Celsius. A 20 grade needs a minimum HTHS of 2.6, a 30 needs 2.9, and the heavier 40, 50, and 60 grades climb to 3.7. That HTHS number is the actual film strength protecting your bearings when everything is screaming hot. Hold on to it, because it is the hero of the hot climate story later. Now the bottle itself, because 2 jugs both labeled 5W-30 can be built from completely different stuff. Oil is base oil plus an additive package, and the base oil comes in 5 groups defined by the American Petroleum Institute, or API. Group 1 and Group 2 are conventional mineral oil, refined straight from crude. Group 2 is the cleaner, more common conventional base today. Group 3 is a heavily hydrocracked mineral base that performs so well it is legally sold as synthetic in most markets. Group 4 is polyalpha olefin, or PAO, a true chemically built synthetic with excellent cold flow and heat stability. Group 5 is everything else, most importantly esters, which cling to metal and boost the additive package. That maps cleanly onto what you see on the shelf. Conventional oil is group 1 or 2 and is the cheapest, but it thickens fastest in cold and breaks down soonest in heat. A synthetic blend mixes conventional with some group 3 or 4 for a middle price. Full synthetic is built on group 3, 4, or a mix with group 5 esters, and it wins on both ends. It flows better when cold and resists oxidation far longer when hot. High mileage oil is usually a synthetic or blend with seal conditioners added to swell aged seals and slow the drips on an engine past 75,000 miles. The rule of thumb holds up. In real heat and real cold, a full synthetic keeps its grade longer than anything else, which is exactly why almost every modern engine now demands it. Flip the bottle over and you find 2 marks that tell you whether the oil is actually certified. The round one is the API donut. The top says the service category, like API SP, which launched on May 1st, 2020 when API authorized it for the upper portion of the donut, and it brought stronger protection against low-speed pre-ignition, or LSPI, the knock problem that has been cracking pistons in small turbo engines. The center of the donut shows the viscosity grade, and the lower half says whether it is resource conserving. The starburst on the front is the ILSAC mark from the International Lubricant Standardization and Approval Committee, or ILSAC. That group's GF6A standard covers normal grades like 5W-30, while GF6B was written specifically for thin 0W-16 oils. First licensing of the next step, API SQ and ILSAC GF7, began on March 31st, 2025, with tougher wear and timing chain protection, and both are backward compatible with the older standards. Picking a certified oil is not a formality. Manufacturers assume that certification when they set your warranty, so an uncertified bottle at the right viscosity can still cost you an engine claim. Now the fun part, your country. Start where it is brutally hot. Places like the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Egypt, Sudan, Arizona, and Death Valley, where summer air hits the high 40s and 50s Celsius and the road surface is worse. In that heat, oil temperature climbs, the film thins, and a thicker high temperature grade with strong HTHS holds a stronger protective layer under load. That is why hot climate markets lean on 5W-40, 10W-40, and 15W-40, and why oxidation resistance and a robust additive package matter more than shaving a fraction of a mile per gallon. The cleanest proof is Toyota. The same 2.5-liter A25A engine that sits in the Camry and Lexus ES tells drivers different things depending on the country. The US Camry owner's manual specifies 0W-16 and states that if 0W-16 is not available, 0W-20 may be used but must be replaced with 0W-16 at the next oil change. The Australian manual for that same engine lets you run 0W-16, 0W-20, 5W-20, 5W-30, or 10W-30, and Toyota's Australian charts for other models climb all the way to 15W-40 and 20W-50 for the hottest conditions. Same engine, same tolerances. The only thing that changed is the priority. Fuel economy at home, film strength in the heat. Middle East dealers routinely default to 5W-30 or 5W-40 for exactly this reason. Now flip to the cold. Canada, Alaska, northern Russia, Norway, Sweden, and Finland, where a winter night can sit at -30 to -40 Celsius. Here the winter number is everything. Most engine wear happens in the first seconds after a cold start, before oil reaches the top of the engine. The Society of Automotive Engineers has determined that up to 80% of the wear on vehicle engines occurs during the first 10 seconds of operation, and mechanics commonly cite 75 to 90% of total wear at startup. When the engine sits overnight, oil drains into the pan and every bearing and cam lobe sits dry. Turn the key and metal moves on metal until the pump pushes oil back up. Cold, thick oil makes that worse. If the oil is too stiff to pump, you get flow starvation, and the longer that lasts, the more damage stacks up. A 0W-20 or 0W-30 built on synthetic base oil stays fluid down to those brutal temperatures and reaches the bearings almost immediately. Per SAE J300, a 0W must pump below 60,000 centipoise at -40 Celsius and crank below 6,200 centipoise at -35, while a conventional 10W or 15W can turn to molasses long before that. This is why the far north runs 0W oils, and it is also why some conventional oils full of paraffin wax nearly stop pouring at -40 in side-by-side tests. In a real deep freeze, the winter number is not about fuel economy, it is about whether your engine gets lubricated at all before the damage is done. Most of the planet lives in the middle, and that is where 5W-30 earns its title as the global default. The UK, Germany, France, the US Midwest, and much of Australia swing from cold winters to warm summers, and 5W-30 covers that whole band with easy cold starts and solid hot protection. That is why it is the single most common grade on Earth. Tropical and humid regions bring a different enemy. In the Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia, Vietnam, Thailand, and Florida, the heat drives oxidation and the humidity drives moisture into the crankcase, especially on short trips where the engine never gets hot enough to boil that water off. Water plus oil makes sludge, and sludge kills engines slowly. The answer is a quality synthetic with strong oxidation resistance and disciplined, sometimes shortened, change intervals. Then there are the extreme swing continental interiors, Kazakhstan, Mongolia, and the deep US Midwest, where the same city can hit -30 in January and plus 40 in July. There is no single grade compromise that survives both. A wide range multigrade with a high viscosity index, or VI, is the only sane choice because a high VI oil resists both thinning in the heat and thickening in the cold. A 0W-30 or 5W-30 full synthetic handles that spread far better than any conventional oil ever could. High altitude regions like Colorado, Peru, Nepal, and Ethiopia add a subtler factor. Thinner air means less oxygen, engines work harder and run hotter under load, and colder mountain mornings stiffen the oil, so a strong cold flow grade with a stable high temperature film earns its keep on the climbs. Here are the 5 mistakes that quietly wreck engines. First, dumping thicker oil into a modern engine that was designed around thin oil. Engines built for 0W-16 or 0W-20 have tight bearing clearances and variable valve timing solenoids with passages the width of 2 sheets of paper. Force thick oil through that and you fight the design, hurt flow to the top end, and can trigger a check engine light. Go up a grade only for a real reason, like sustained desert heat or track use, not a hunch. Second, ignoring the API and ILSAC certification. A cheap, uncertified oil at the right viscosity still misses the wear, deposit, and LSP eye protection your engine was validated on. Third, keeping the exact same oil when you move continents. The grade that was perfect in Germany can be too thin for a Kuwaiti summer, and the grade that was fine in Dubai can be a hard starting liability in a Finnish winter. Fourth, pouring diesel oil into a gas engine, or the reverse, without checking approvals. Heavy-duty diesel oils carry API categories like CK4 and FA4, and FA4 in particular is a low HTHS oil that is not backward compatible and can leave the wrong engine underprotected. Fifth, stretching your drain interval in heat and dust. The oxidation rate of the oil roughly doubles for every 18 degrees Fahrenheit of extra temperature, and desert dust overwhelms the additive package that keeps grit in suspension. Hot and dusty means change it sooner, not later. Comment your country and the oil grade you run below. I want to see how many of you are already dialed in for your climate. Here's how to pick your oil in about 60 seconds. Step 1. Open the owner's manual or the oil cap and read the exact grade plus any manufacturer spec, because those matter as much as the numbers. GM engines want Dexos 1 Gen 3. Fords call for a WSS code like WSS-M2C961-A1. Chrysler uses MS numbers. European cars list VW 508.00 and 509.00. BMW Long Life -04 or a Mercedes-Benz number like 229.71. Those approvals define the additive chemistry, not just the thickness. Step 2. Factor in your climate. Hard winters push you toward a 0W or 5W front number. Genuine sustained heat, towing, or track use justifies a 30 or a 40 on the back end if your manual allows it. Step 3. Match a current certification, API-SP or ILSAC GF6 at minimum, and newer GF7 or SQ if you can get it. Step 4. Choose full synthetic if you run a turbo, a direct injection, or DI engine, a hybrid, or anything in extreme conditions. Step 5. Change it more often in dust, heat, and short trip driving. That is the whole decision. So what oil are you running, and does it actually match your climate? Tell me in the comments because I read them. If this saved you from a mistake at the parts counter, hit subscribe, because next time we break down the oil change intervals nobody tells you the truth about. Drive smart, protect your engine, and I will see you in the next one.